Hello, everyone, and welcome to A More Perfect Podcast. I am always, as always, your host, Mike Winson. It's been a while. Have been insanely busy in my personal life doing a bunch of other jobs, but, you know, I'm back, and we are lucky enough to have a regular on A More Perfect Podcast, and we always have the most amazing discussions. And based on today's topic, I could think of no one better to bring on my friend Theory. Hey, Theory.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, welcome back.
Well, thank you.
Welcome back.
I'm excited to not be working 12 and 14-hour days. So now I'll just do 12 and 14-hour days of the podcast instead of other jobs.
That's so nice.
Yeah. So there's been a lot going on. Since the last time we did a podcast, I think it's probably been close to 100 days. It's been a lot going on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. What? It's just May. It's totally normal. Nothing's changed.
I said this somewhere else. I think it might have been on a different podcast episode. Just the unfathomable idea that it has only been, what are we on? 4 months now?
Yeah.
How has it only been 4 months?
I mean, I think this is a really funny
I just don't get that
joke on time, where it's like, ADHD people and neurodivergent people have a weird conception of time generally.
Yeah.
And now the rest of the world is finally included in that because, you can see how 100 days feels like 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So today's topic is, there have obviously, there's been a lot of discussions about Democratic branding, things that we need to talk about, things that we need to do. And obviously, just like with everything on the progressive side, it never is as simple as it seems on the conservative side. There's a lot of people that feel that we should be doing things differently. So
no matter what we do. Yeah.
Just as a build up to the actual conversation, the whole idea for today's episode came from a TikTok live where a mutual of mine, Good Trouble, went on and chewed out. We'll say chewed out because after the videos after, he definitely was chewing out.
I haven't heard that in
chewing
so long.
out other more moderate progressive creators that were bringing on MAGA creators to have a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
The MAGA creator that they brought on is an extremely racist and misogynist and
love it.
Every ist that you can think of, he's it. And the
collecting it. Yeah. Collecting it.
When Good Trouble came on, he was very specific about the idea that we cannot give voice to people like that. Mm-hmm. And that is really where I want. And for those of you that are watching, I'll put a link if I can find a good one. I'll put a link to a video. So those of you that want to know the basis of this can go watch that. But that's kind of where I want to start. So this idea that you get from more moderate people that were either former Republicans or more moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats, that kind of this idea that we need to not only have conversations with people on the right, which to an extent I agree with, but we need to understand them. We need to do it in these spaces publicly out loud,
right?
Because there's this idea from people on that side that they're doing it anyway, and this is something this is something people in the center do say a lot, is they're having these conversations anyway. If we're there having conversations with them, we can at least they feel like they're fighting back when they do that. So that's kind of where I want to start with this conversation. Get your ideas on not only should we be opening space up for these people in more progressive spaces, but also is there value in doing what they're doing?
Right. Spoiler alert, no. Episode over. That's it.
Let's expand on that a little bit, but we'll take that.
No, I think there's a lot going on in that line of logic, right? There's this idea that by opening up these places, these spaces, and making them safe for expression, it includes making it safe for people who are hateful as well, who
Yeah.
are actively making it more unsafe for the people who require safe spaces in the first place.
Hmm.
And that's a misconception. I don't think you get to, say that people don't deserve rights and then also get to enter those safe spaces to articulate that again. But I also think this idea of understanding them is getting misconstrued too. I think it's super valuable as a person engaging in the world trying to convince people to do A, B, or C, to understand rhetoric, to understand ideology, to understand frame of mind. Like, how can I get to them? What is the core of their argument? What are they afraid of? Are they afraid? Are
Yeah.
they more angry? Like, there is a benefit to understanding your opponent so that you know how to attack them and how to beat them in the
Yeah.
logic or rhetoric game. But you do that asynchronously. You do that off camera. You do that when you sit down and you consume that person's content or those people's types of content, and you start picking apart threads of thinking, and how you attack those threads of thinking is what makes you more effective.
So why, I think I know the answer from you, but what is the danger of giving them that voice in your space publicly?
Legitimacy, right? You're giving them leverage. Everybody thinks about what's going on very differently. And I think content creators, I'm not a content creator myself, but I consume a lot of content and I advise people on how to create content. So, Mike, you may know this.
A little bit, yeah.
But, there is a benefit to letting those people have their own spaces and letting those people have their own conversations and having them exist in their own little silos. Once you open your silo, or once you open your communities to that way of thinking, now those people have different access points for people who want to follow them. Now you're giving them more legitimacy within their own base, right? So they're going to go back and say, I was invited because I am such a legitimate thinker and logical philosopher and ideological person that I was invited to go be on a leftist podcast or a space and watch what happens. Watch how they ate me, chewed me out. I was going to say something else entirely. Wow. But they get to go home to their base and say, I'm so important. I got to do this thing. I'm so important. That space was open to me.
Now, could you also, one of the things that strikes me in those also is not just legitimizing, but also, so back in the day, it feels like it was forever ago, even though it probably hasn't been too long ago. People didn't say the kind of things that are saying out loud because they knew they would be shunned by society. And what I see happening, I think the reason that we got to where we are at, where people in the Krispy Kreme club can walk around in public, say what they're saying, people can say what they're saying in social media, is because what has happened is, in progressives' desire to own the conservatives, own the MAGA, they have shown those that sympathize, maybe not even fully agree, but at least sympathize, that they can now vocally say some of the most wretched things and nothing will really happen, because we have also destroyed accountability and responsibility, which I think is one of the biggest things that has gotten us to where we are at.
Well, if the social contract of reality is destroyed because now we're all forever online, so too does the power of public shaming in real life. If all you care about is your online community. If the only times that you are away from content, either making it or consuming it, is when you go to the grocery store and then come back home, or when you go to Target, if you're still shopping at Target, to get something for your house and come back home and you're back online, what does it matter if your community finds what you're saying shameful? Because you don't exist in real world anymore. You just care about online, which is why these content creators get so up in arms about getting canceled digitally.
Yeah.
But we can reclaim that power, I think. I think that's part of, oh my God, leftists are always like, and I'm a leftist, don't even come for me. Always say, community building, community building, community building. That is part of it too. It isn't just building, and I know we're going to get to this, building solidarity versus alliance, but it isn't just about building solidarity with people. It's also about reestablishing the power of social, real world organization, because you are way more powerful if you can make someone feel embarrassed in person. They don't get to put the phone down if you're making them feel ashamed in real life. Look at the Republican town halls.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true. I mean, that is, it's interesting. I remember, I think it was like a couple years ago, there was a bill that it was attempted to put forward that said that that in social media you had to use your real name and your face.
Mm-hmm.
And it was taken down super
deeply
fast.
Deeply unpopular. Yeah.
And
from both sides.
I remember when I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, I was for it, but then there's that part of me that started going, yeah, but do I really want people to know who I am? And then it caused me to think even further. Do I really believe what I'm saying? And if I really believe what I'm saying, am I willing to put my name on it? It's one of the reasons that I stopped going by the name I went for 7 years on Twitch and started going with my real name, because I just sat here and I was like, I can't in good conscience hide behind anonymity when everything around me and humans around me are suffering because of this.
Yeah, and you put your full faith behind what you're saying too, enough to stand with your name, I think for me, I'm always theory thought online. I don't use my real name because I'm a corporate employee who is discussing the ailments and ills of capitalism as I go to work every day, So
yeah,
there is but that is sort of I feel like, what is it called? Duplicitous, maybe, doing that. And so I'm still protecting what little identity I have left to protect. But it's not.
And I want to make it clear to everybody listening, I completely understand why you do it.
Yeah.
There is nothing that keeps me up more at night than the potential of what bad actors in this country, in this world, could do to me if they so chose.
Yep.
And it is frightening having my identity out there.
But see, that's crazy to me, because those same people understand the power of real life, right? But it's the same reason that they feel entitled to come into progressive spaces. They think they are so powerful that they can control whether or not reality ever shames them in person by never going outside, basically, and only existing within communities that make them feel safe and loved. Or they threaten people who do care about real life with real violence. Similarly,
and now we are seeing that whole idea in full force by the current administration, which sure is not helping things, is it?
It's helping them. Is it
helping them? Or is it perceived helping them?
No. It's helping them. It's helping them say what they've wanted to say in real life.
It's helped them in that respect. But as I think the reason I said, does it help them really, is what's to stop? It's the same argument we have with the whole why due process is so important. Due process is not important because those people that may be getting deported right now don't deserve to get deported. That was not the question that's ever asked. The reason the executive branch following the due process is important is because if they can do it to them, they can do it to everybody.
Yeah. But they've become really, I mean, this is why, so back to the earlier point I was making about understanding them. This is why understanding them is a trap, but it's a good one if you do it on your own time and don't open up your space to them. But like understanding them and the way that they argue is so important, because immediately upon saying something, you know what their response is going to be, right? So if I say, which I did last night on my TikTok, if I say something like, capitalism is not the only system that we can exist under, there are many other systems we can try. The first response is always like, oh, so feudalism was better? Oh, so name a communist country that has done better? Oh, so, and, no one is arguing anything, everyone is always trying to get what they want out of you.
It's always whataboutism.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I made before this recording, I made a video talking about this subject. Mm-hmm. And one of the responses that I got, which is hilarious to me, is, so you're saying that we can't have an opinion unless it's what you think. And
if they start with a "so you're saying," it's already
oh yeah, it was a "so you're saying." Yeah. Which is funny to me. And again, for anyone listening that disagrees with what we're saying, you can have an opinion. Mm-hmm. 100%. You have your own brain. You have the capability of having an opinion.
Yeah.
No matter how horrible it is.
What do they say about buttholes? Yeah. And opinions.
Yeah, all got them.
Yeah.
But what we're saying here, and we're going to continue talking about, is just you being able to have an opinion does not justify me giving you my space to express those opinions.
Especially if your opinions go against our core beliefs of empathy, humanity, equality, justice. If you think that, what you're about to talk about is infringing on the rights of other people to be people, we don't have to grant you space.
Yep.
Actually, we have a responsibility not to grant you space.
So this goes into a different side of things that I'm interested on your perspective on. So we're obviously in agreement that a space like someone's TikTok live or something public is not a good space to have people on that completely disagree with your fundamentals. Mm-hmm. Where is a good place to have those kinds of conversations?
DMs. I think, if those people feel strongly, this is the other thing too, right? Social media is great. It's allowed us to see the experiences of other people that we would have never had access to in our communities. Learning about how Taiwan revolted, or how Paris does revolution better than anyone else, or whatever, yeah. or Palestine, or any of the things that are going on.
Yeah.
It has opened a world for everyone, and it has helped regular Americans understand the own propaganda that we've been fed by our government for generations, or how history may be shaped differently by those who get to write it. But it has also meant a rise in bot behavior. It has also meant a rise in comment farms and, people doing this to sow the seeds of discontent within safe comment sections. Yeah. So I think if somebody really has an opinion that they need to share with someone, start it as a comment and say, I would love to be able to come into your DMs and talk about this. Or, the creator then, but this is again, a lot of responsibility on creators. That can be tough to be like, hey, let's talk about this offline. Or, hey, let's talk about this off of the comment thread. I'd love to chat.
Yeah. And I do want to say, we need people that are willing and able to do it. We need people, especially ones that were in MAGA and got out, to be willing to interact with them. It's just like we've had this discussion about how we are supposed to talk, how we as white people need to talk to other white people, how Christians need to interact with, Christians that see the problem in the Christian church need to be the ones that are calling out the church. This idea that someone who was or is in those spaces will do a better job reaching people that are still in those spaces. People that are super far left, have always been far left, always been progressive. In our current environment, would a MAGA person ever open their mind to that perspective? For me, my brain tells me no. Only because what I have noticed is, on the Christian perspective, I grew up in the church. I know, I already understand what all of these people have been taught about members of the LGBTQIA community, about non-Christians, about, what the church means, what the secular world means. I can sit here and I can come at it from a perspective of, I've been there. I know exactly what you were taught. I know why you were taught it. And this is what changed me here. Let me walk you through that. Is that what we is that what we will need? I feel like there's this idea of people that were never in there are the ones that are trying to change people. But I don't think in the end, it's just a rage baiting. It's just a debate. It feels to me like it's just debating to make money at this point. They're not actually trying to change minds.
Of course it's that. It has always been that with those types of debaters. It has never been about actually convincing people that they're wrong. They've never actively done that. They're in the business of public opinion so that their audience can say, wow, you really own them. Woo, woo, woo. That person that they argued with has not changed their mind. Yeah. That was never the goal. But I will say, okay, if anything is going to happen, if any collective organization is going to happen in this moment in time, it would probably be better for us to think about it like a corporation. I'm not saying that we need hierarchical power or that we need a funder. I'm thinking this is a culturally understood system. We all understand how a workplace functions, right?
Yeah.
We all understand that when you build a work team, you have different people who have different functions. You do not have 75 project managers. You have one project manager, 3 developers, 4 copywriters, whatever the case may be. Right now, we're operating where we expect content creators to also be strategists, to also be convincers, to also be lawyers, to also be public personalities, to be creating content on a massive, there's so much responsibility that's placed on the people who chose to be public about, being dissenting. Yeah. And that's not the way that it should operate. There should be strategists like me. There should be people like ex-MAGA. That is a function of our corporation or our coalition. We need those people to be frontline because guess what? I don't trust you yet. Number one, I don't trust you yet. I don't trust that you are far enough removed from your own ex-ideology to be the center of my movement.
That's fair.
So in that regard, I need you to learn about our movement. I need you to build the muscle that is empathy, because empathy is not just some amalgamous thing. It is a muscle.
Yeah.
I need you to build empathy, and I need you to start by trying to get more people that used to be MAGA or are MAGA on our side.
And, I'm sure fear is not helping things.
Fear makes everything. I mean, fear, what's on the other side of fear, right? Like if we think of emotions as a spectrum, happy, sad, what's on the other side of fear?
Safety.
So I think we're misplaced by thinking that we can open our safe spaces for MAGA people who are afraid by saying, hey, you can be safe here. But that's not real safety.
And it's not, I was not expecting to go this way, but I'm definitely getting deep in my brain now. I mean,
that's the point.
I know, I understand that. This idea of safety, because, in my in this community, we do try and make it like, that is one of the things that we try, this idea of a safe space. It's, you know, it's that way everywhere. But, you know, for people that were former MAGA, or people that are just more moderate, at least
moderate curious,
they may agree with us on the non-negotiables, but past that, we're on a completely different planet.
Right. I wish gay people wouldn't put it in my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to meet anyone from the LGBTQ community, but I don't want them to
I don't want them
lose
to
their
move
life.
into my neighborhood, which is really counterintuitive because gay people are great for neighborhoods. Anyway.
But it's interesting to think about it because, you know, it's this other issue that we've got to figure out. And it's still, I guess it does come back to that corporation idea, because someone who is closer to the center, and I've noticed it. I mean, I am definitely in how I want to see the world become, like my future casting world. I am probably as leftist as you can get. I would love universal healthcare. I would love affordable not even just affordable housing. Everyone, just being an American means, being in this country means you get a house. You get a place to live, you get food on the table, you get healthcare, you get education. That is the world that I would want society. That is what I would want this country to be if I were building it from the ground up. I can't imagine someone, especially who's just out of MAGA, to be able to feel safe in my space, because that as someone, again,
it's like going back
to my church things, my church upbringing, it is, even though I will stand up for everybody's right to believe what they want to believe, I am admitting that if I am in a group of people that is talking about religion and all of them are against religion, I'm going to feel somewhat uncomfortable. Even though I will defend their right to the end. I will admit straight up that everything I believe is all me and I can't prove it, but it's
always
hard.
Putting you at a disadvantage, because even just by being in that space, you need to disagree with your core beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Anytime we open up our spaces, we're like, oh, it's a safe space for, you know, conservatives to come and chat. They understand it is not a safe space. It is a hostile environment. The only people who think it's a safe space are the people who are inviting them.
So how do we build a coalition off of that? This
is what I mean. You need to have different functions. So those MAGA people, again, that just left MAGA or were ex-MAGA, or whose family are entirely, you know, conservative and they aren't, those are the people that you leverage in those types of conversations. And you do it in reverse. You do it by making them go, or by not making them, but like encouraging them to go into MAGA spaces. You do not do it in reverse.
So what you're saying is okay. And I agree. I'm just trying to think through, if I was having this discussion with somebody else in this process of trying to create this coalition, because I'm like, what would they ask?
Well, okay, let's go back to like another example. So in church, when you're a kid and you're being brought up, I was Catholic. So when I was brought up in the Catholic Church, let me just speak for myself. When I started going to church, kids were not always introduced to the full Mass. Kids got introduced to certain parts of the Mass and then got to go be kids. And then got to go decompress and not, you know, be in Mass all the time, because it is a change in composure. It's a change in focus. It's a change in devotion. There's a lot going on. And as a kid, you're not 100% aware of what's going on and you're going to be disruptive, blah, blah, blah. You go away. Yeah. Then you start catechism classes, right? And then you get to learn more about the theology, and you get to learn more about what it is to be Catholic, what it was to be Christ, what it means to believe in that stuff. Sure. And then you have a ceremony where you go on, and then you can keep taking classes, but then you're in full Mass, then you're in service. Sometimes you become a bell person. You're an altar person. But it's this idea that you're building and you're building and you're building into full service, right? Yeah. So the fact that you were just MAGA means you are not yet ready for the full mass. You are not yet ready for service. You are ready to absorb. You are ready to learn about how you were wrong. But there's also this confidence builder that needs to happen. You can't just be expected to like leave a cult and then learn ideology for a new one.
Yeah.
You have to build your own sense of confidence. So how can we encourage people to be more confident in this movement that they've chosen to align with now? Go off and argue it with people who are just like you. Build your muscle of understanding the movement that you're a part of by trying to break down the people in your own circle.
So I think where I see an issue coming in.
There's so many.
So many.
Just one.
We'll start with this one. Is how I think it's not even an issue in general. I think the issue where progressives are coming when it comes to all of this is, again, it still comes back to, I think, fear. Because I think there is this, we've got a administration that is literally nonstop trying to not only destroy the American economy, but American society.
And people. Yeah.
And people. And I've got people coming into my comment section nonstop saying, will we ever have an election again? Will we ever have a not stolen? It's weird that we're saying stolen election now.
It's intentional.
I understand.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they floated the idea of a rigged election in 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
So but there's just so much fear that in what is going on, and there's such a desire to want to get it to stop for obvious reasons, for valid reasons, because it's bad what is going on. It's horrible. So I think that is why these creators, these people that were former MAGA, are being lifted up so high, because I think there's this massive desire to find that we want that tipping point. We want to cross over that tipping point and start falling in the direction of the right side of history. We want it so bad that when we see people that say, I was MAGA to the core, and now I consider myself a leftist.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are failing, is we are still trying to make this movement huge in a week or a month.
Yeah. In 100 days. Yeah.
In 100 days. There's still this
How long has it taken Bernie to become the Bernie? How many years of public service did he get nothing done?
Yeah.
Not because he wasn't trying, but because the systems, take forever to be adoptive of that type of stuff, of any sort of progress.
Because there are 260 million voting age adults in this country, something like that.
And we can't worry about all of them. And there's room to worry about all of them, but you can't be expected to worry about all of them as a singular person or as one community of creators or whatever. I think,
or even a coalition. There will always be a group of people. I've said this before. There will always be a group of people, potentially on both sides. Let's be fair. There will always be groups of people that will fundamentally that you will not be able to reach, that you will not be able to work with, that you will not be able to be on the same page with.
Which is why it's so disconcerting. Here we go, lead in. Which is why it's so disconcerting when you have these leftists that have huge platforms, partially elevated by, actually, I'm going to say highly elevated by people of color, by queer people, by women, who are engaging in microaggressions against those same communities that lift them up. We have to stop centering white people as movement leaders and I'm saying this looking at you like I love you. You are a specific movement leader, but we have to stop thinking that they are the only
Absolutely
people who can
100%.
drive movements. Additionally, we have to stop thinking that because it's so similar to the ex-MAGA shit. Sorry if I cursed. We have to stop thinking that, oh my gosh, we have to elevate white people who all of a sudden saw the error in their ways. What? I have privilege. I get to be in the center of the conversation now. I get to dictate the whole conversation now. That's not cool.
No. And I can tell you straight up, at least from my perspective, I will have a party. I will take my computer screens and throw them in the trash the day that society is to a point where I only started this because I got pissed off that a Christian said you cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat. That is the only reason I made a video in the first place.
Yeah.
I wish I never had to. I'd never considered it. I never wanted to. There are days that I hate doing this. And I would be ecstatic if I could spend my day doing things that I love doing that don't involve having to speak out against anybody saying the kind of wretched things that are being said. I don't want to do this. I don't think anyone should want to do this or have to do this. Some people
want to do it, yeah. It's funny because I want to do it and I'm not at liberty to do so. So, we all have, but this is what I mean, going back to the corporation idea, this is why there are different functions, right? What is currently, I think, one of the biggest, symptoms of this current illness that we all have, which is like elevating people who want to be the center of attention or who want to be content creators, is they do not have strategic brains necessarily. They do not have research brains necessarily.
I would love to have people research for me.
I was going to say that.
I would love it. If anyone watching this wants to research for me, I would love you.
I was going to say, organized podcasts, like big podcasts who have networks and stuff, have researchers.
Yeah, those people don't write the stuff.
Production managers. They have project managers. They have casting agents. They have assistants. They have all sorts of people making this thing happen. And yet the only people we say are like, man, I love Hassan's new podcast. Man, I love so-and-so's podcast, or I love what they said specifically. And it discredits, or it doesn't discredit because I don't think that's the intention, but it wrongfully elevates content creators as everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with we as Americans do this to every form of entertainer who is willing to be on screen. We do it to Donald Trump.
We do it to every president. Suddenly.
Every president, every actor and actress, sports people. Like, that has always boggled my mind. We're going off a little tangent, I know, but this has always boggled my mind. How the fact that someone can hit a baseball somehow means that every other thing they speak about is somehow better and more valid than other people. That just because someone is a
billionaire.
Yeah.
Because their parents owned mines at the expense of entire populations of people does not make them any smarter than anyone else, including the education that they bought that they bought with those millions that they had at the time.
By the way, when I was talking, I think it was yesterday, about just, everything that was going on. And someone was like talking about wealthy people. And someone was like, Elon Musk built PayPal and then that's how he made his fortune. I'm like, no, Elon Musk bought PayPal.
And then he bought Tesla.
He did a merger spent a lot of money to get PayPal and then sold it. Yeah. Same with Tesla.
Wrote a contract for the Tesla founders that said they can never call themselves founders again because he was the founder. Yeah.
Same with Tesla. Even SpaceX. He didn't do any of that.
It's like if Warren Buffett put a name on every single company that he has helped through his investments.
Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs didn't invent the computer.
No.
Steve Jobs did nothing except
Rick Ross.
except Steve Wozniak was the creator. Like every computer you have right now that is amazing is thanks to people like Steve Wozniak and all of the other.
Even Jeff Bezos, even Amazon. Like these things do not happen because one person is a genius and one person alone does all of the work to make that thing genius. That person hires a bunch of people in different functions to be able to make their vision come true. So back to the point, content creators are currently trying to be everything. They're trying to be political organizers. They're trying to be personalities. They're trying to make money off of their accounts. They're trying to be debaters. They're trying to be community, like, moderators to their own community. They're trying to stay on top of trends. There's so much that they are trying to do that they think they can do alone.
As a content creator, my question becomes, are they trying to, or is that being expected of them? Because I think it's
both. I think it's definitely both.
I can tell you there's a mass, I feel, and not that anyone in my community has ever been like, you need to do all of this, but I definitely have felt this pull and pressure to be, I mean, I'm old enough that I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Right.
Not doing it.
But I'm talking specifically about the leftists who are now trying to be political organizers, right?
Yeah.
It's not that no one asked that of them. Probably people asked them to do something and they probably feel some pressure to do it, but they're going about it in a really egotistical way, which is to say, I can do this alone, or I can do this with a few other people who think exactly like me. And I don't need all of the other functions of what it takes to run something like this.
Yeah.
I don't need a diverse community of people who are looking at this from different points of view and being like, hey, that's going to offend this group. Hey, you're leaving out these people.
And it's almost a step further in the sense of what has been ending up happening is what these people are doing is they are hanging out with either people that think just like them or people who think vastly opposite of them that they can have their debates with. They don't like it when someone who's close to theirs but disagrees comes out and says, I don't like this. I have definitely noticed they super defensive.
Saying, I do not build coalition with people who supported genocide.
Yeah.
No one who voted for the Democrats, to my knowledge, supports genocide, right? But they think because you voted for Kamala, you support genocide, and therefore they cannot build coalition with you. But they're perfectly fine building coalition with people who are racist, is what they're saying, by including men like him on those.
Yeah. Did you see the Gavin Newsom podcast with Charlie Kirk?
What a disappointment Gavin Newsom is.
I know. And I talked about this in a different video because I actually he made his rounds. He's running for president. Whether he's officially announced it or not, he is. And he's
a man with that much pomade is absolutely running for president.
But it's already been talked about how, he's trying to, you can tell in everything he's saying, he's trying to place himself as that moderate. Mm-hmm. And this is part of the reason that people don't trust politicians, because even Kamala Harris, you looked at when she ran before becoming the vice presidential candidate with Biden, she was so much farther to the left in her policies than when she ran this time. Like so much farther. Now I know some of it may be she was in there, she was vice president, she realized experiences change how you see things, right or wrong.
It's not Kamala though. See, we're doing it again. It's not that she made the decision to become more moderate.
I'm not saying she did.
It's that the strategists made the decision for her.
I'm saying I'm not her. I'm not sitting here having a conversation with her. I can't tell you one way or another whether she changed, whether the Kamala Harris we saw in 2016 or the Kamala Harris we saw now
is the real one.
Is
what
her,
happened,
or it's somewhere in between. It's the same with Gavin Newsom. If you look at, like, all of a sudden Gavin Newsom has made 2 dumbass comments, one with Charlie Kirk and one just recently about Medi-Cal for immigrants. Like, this is why there isn't a trust, and this is where the problem comes. I mean, my issue with him getting on the show with Charlie Kirk was not in the grand scheme of things. I mean, again, if we go in with our letting these people have a voice, I obviously was against that as a whole. But my real issue with him was not that he had Charlie Kirk on. It's that when Charlie Kirk said some really transphobic stuff, he didn't put a stop to it.
In the performance of safe spacery,
yeah,
he let him say it.
Correct. And agreed.
I think that's similar to, like, we can't understand real Kamala. We don't know which one is real Kamala, which one is a moderate version, because the DNC required that of her.
Yeah.
We don't know what Gavin Newsom really believes.
And do we know what most politicians believe?
Not in the current framework.
Yeah.
Not in the current framework.
Are there any that you do? I mean, Bernie.
AOC for me, and not Bernie.
AOC. Not Bernie?
AOC, not Bernie. Yeah.
Really? You don't think Bernie
I think Bernie is an old white guy. And I think as an old white guy has certain blinders. He doesn't understand that there is value in identity politics. He thinks that identity politics are a distraction from class solidarity.
Okay. So I'm not sitting here saying, do you think that he sees everything? My question is, do you think that the Bernie you see on TV is the Bernie, if you knew Bernie, you think that is different?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think AOC is different too, but I think she's closer to who she might truly be. I think
is
Bernie
anyone
said something
in any
recently.
situation?
Bernie said something recently. He was on a podcast that he probably shouldn't have been on again with another right-wing person. Andrew, maybe?
Which Andrew?
I don't remember that guy with the mustache.
The one with the multiple bros?
You could be mentioning literally any podcast with that. Are we talking about...
Pete Buttigieg was on with them just recently too. Yeah.
But Bernie mentioned identity politics getting in the way of class solidarity. And he's like, sure, you want to come out here and say that you're Black and LGBTQIA and you're amazing because you're LGBTQIA, whatever. I don't care. Moving on into what he really wanted to talk about. He doesn't. And I think that is closer to who Bernie really is than the politician Bernie we see that is trying to build coalition, that is trying to get more people involved that aren't just white bros who are, libertarians. And so I don't trust him. But that's the thing, is like, I'm not in the business of giving my entire trust to a politician.
Nor should you ever.
I just have to vote based on whether or not I think they are going to be effective at doing what I need them to do. I am hiring them for a job. I am not hiring them to be my husband. I am not hiring them to be, my doctor.
And at minimum, can we agree on fundamentals?
At minimum, do you think
bare minimum
same thing I think about people's rights? And are you going to be effective is another one. And I think we lost the plot. We lose the plot every 4 years when you have a Green Party or a Jill Stein come in and say, I want to do all these things. We forget that part of the electoral process is whether or not we think those people are actually capable of doing what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've had that discussion, especially for third party. That's been the biggest argument, is what makes anyone, say a Green Party candidate won. Who, they don't.
Look at Bernie Sanders.
People in their own party can't get people to do things in the same.
No one liked Bernie Sanders for years, and he never got anything done because he did not play the game of Congress very well.
Yeah. AOC had that problem when she started too.
Came in with big, bold ideas, did not want to talk to people, did not want to, be a politician, did not do very much. all of a sudden had to kiss the feet. And I'm not saying that these are good things. I don't think that these things should exist, but they do. And, you know, we can't keep voting just for our own moral absolution, which is something I have gone on and on and on about with the left, especially.
Yeah.
We need to remember that we're not just voting for people because they're saying what we want them to say. We need to vote for them based on whether or not we think they can do the job with the current fucking system. Or if they're working towards breaking the system, do they have enough strategy to not say that out loud?
And stop trying to break the system with the president.
Stop trying to break the system with the president.
Break the system by getting people in state office, because you know what can happen if you get enough people in state office? You can break the system.
I also think, you know,
or change it. Let's not
this
say
whole
break.
podcast
Change
is
the
now
system.
this whole podcast is turned into theory being like, we need strategists because I'm a strategist.
But we do.
But we need, the DNC needs new strategists. We have been using the strategies for the last 40 years that have not worked in the last 20.
So here's the thing, and this is how I'm seeing it. So the DNC wants to be progressive, but the strategists that they use in general, you know what I mean though, like
they want to be the people's choice against the conservatives. Yes.
Sure. That's fine. That's fair. But their strategists still run from the playbook of the people that currently support the Conservative Party more. So what they're doing, which is why what you're seeing is the Democrat playbook, is to do things that might pull, or at least in their minds, hope to pull people from the moderate.
They can. This is where the strategy brain kicks in. They can still have that be their goal. They can say, sure. Oh my gosh, look at, oh my, cat does. That can still be their goal. Their goal can still be to pull people from the conservatives. They're just using a lever that isn't working anymore. And their lever is to appease those people. There is a lot of argument to be made for igniting those people. There is a lot of argument to be made for releasing enough data, education, communications targeting those people to wake them up.
Yeah.
But they're using a playbook. They're using a strategy, which is we need more conservatives. And the only lever that they're pulling is become more conservative. You will never win that battle. If you want to get more conservatives, you need to figure out other ways to engage those people, because becoming more like them, the conservatives are already better than you at that.
And it comes down to, it's like the people that have argued, which again, there's a part of me that sort of agrees to it. You know, Michelle Obama had that when they go low, you go high thing. And what it has changed into is the thing that I always feared that has kind of come out is this idea of, from the left at least, is when they go low, you go lower, or at least you go as low. And my fear is this same idea. Like, it's the same thing in war. There was always periods in every single war where things happened. People, the others, the good
a line
people
was crossed or whatever. Yeah.
Said, in order to win this, we have to do this. We have to go down to their level. We have to.
Or we have to commit an atrocity that the world has never seen before.
Well, but see, this is what happens. It always gets to that, because what happens is they say, we need to go down to this level. And
in
the problem
economics, we call it a race
is when you have
bottom.
another side that has no morality, has no humanity. They don't care if they have to go lower after. And then the other group says, okay, we have to meet them here because we have to win. And it just keeps going down until both sides start doing things like committing atrocities. And that has been my fear. My biggest fear with what's going on is what we're doing is, in this desire to win that what we're doing is we're pushing people so far in every single direction that we're going to hit a point of no return and something bad is going to happen. And you're seeing it every once in a while. You're seeing extremists do extreme things every once in a while.
In my mind, like psychologically, this makes no sense because, and I know it makes sense in the heat of the moment, right? But like, we are still humans, right? We still have human brains. We still have indoctrination from our previous social contract, sure. But we also just process information in a specific way because that's the way our brains are built evolutionarily, whatever. When you have a party that has asked its base to compartmentalize some part of processing in order to be more hateful, right? It has started othering people. It has asked them to give up their humanity a little bit, to give up their empathy a lot of it, to start believing in this ideology. You always have this much space to tap back into that. So when the Democrats, so let's say the conservatives are right here. When the Democrats come in down here, guess what the conservatives are going to do? Where's your humanity? Where is your empathy?
Yeah. And I hear that.
How dare you talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene being ugly? Aren't you the party that cares?
But I think the perspectives of how people are getting to those points are different. So conservatives are coming at it from this idea that the world they know, the world that things were great back then.
Oh my God.
I know. Things were great back then, and we need to get back to that. And X, Y, and Z. Immigrants are the problem. Woke is the problem. Blah, blah, blah is the problem.
Women suck. Yeah.
Transgender is the problem. What I see in the push on the other direction, and obviously I'm not seeing it in the extreme form yet, but I fear that I'm seeing hints of it, is you're getting people that are feeling like there is no other option. They're seeing us going backwards, and they're seeing the potential. They know history, so they know the potential directions that we can go. They know other countries that they can compare us to. And I fear you've got one group that will go extreme because they don't care about humanity, and another that will go to an extreme because of how much they care about humanity.
I think that's true. But we can't control everyone, number one. Number two, the best we can do is try and keep, this is an ideological argument because it's like,
of course,
there are people who want to destroy the system. There are accelerationists who want more and more people to feel hungry, to feel disenfranchised, to be without a job, so that they're more likely to be radicalized. Either way.
They want the system destroyed.
Both parties, both sides in current American politics would love either.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's only two sides, but I'm talking about like if it were a line, point A, point Z.
Yeah.
But I think, and it takes a lot of mental energy to pick apart the things that do work in the society, the things that don't work in the society, how we can, and sometimes when you're afraid, you don't have the mental capacity to do that. So how can we move? I think part of the coalition building needs to be, how do we protect the people in the spaces that we've already cultivated? Number one, stop including people who think they shouldn't be people. Yeah. Period. Right? Number two, full stop. Number two, this is the opportunity for community building. All that community building that leftists are talking about. This is the time for mutual aid. This is the time for sharing of resources. If somebody is curious about a thing, send them a link to a video they might like. It is about making people feel understood, making people feel listened to, and making them feel like there's a place where, hey, I'm really struggling. ICE just came to my restaurant and took workers. What can we do? Can anyone help me? The community should be there to be like, here's some resources. This is what you can do. Like, what can we do? Can we help? Like, that is the time. I mean, you're not going to move out of fear without actually building safe spaces. And that's not inviting people to be on a panel.
Bring back third spaces.
Bring back third spaces. And if the internet is going to be a third space, fuck. If the internet is going to be a third space, then you need to treat it like you would treat your church. You need to treat the internet like a place you wouldn't want someone walking in there with an AK-47.
Yeah. That's a really good statement. No better statement to end on.
What even?
Treat your internet space like you would your church, not wanting someone to come in with an AK-47. I agree 100%. I know I was laughing about it, but you are absolutely right. When you said it, my brain went, yep.
And treat it like your church. Have coloring books, easy access information that new people can start learning about you, and about the movement. You can't expect everyone to just a light switch to go on and off. Yeah. Sometimes it's a flickering candle, man. Anyway.
Well, Theory, always love when we get to hang out and talk, because it always makes me think about things in a way that I haven't before. So,
you do the same for me. I love it.
Hopefully we'll get to have you on more often. I know you keep saying you won't be able to, and then you keep coming on. So I'll assume you'll be back on at some point. You can't
keep me away. Yes.
Again, thank you so much, guys. For everyone listening, please, so we don't need to give people who don't believe in our fundamentals a voice. That is really what this comes down to. Everyone has the right to have an opinion. That does not mean they have the right to give it wherever they want, whenever they want, to whoever they want. You have the right to not allow those kind of...
You have the responsibility.
You have the responsibility to not allow those kinds of things to grow, especially if it's a kind of society you want. We are trying to build coalition. There will be bumps. We will go backwards. We will then go forwards. Know that here at A More Perfect Podcast, we are always trying to learn, to grow, to get you to vote in primaries, for God's sake. And I will say that till the day I die.
Primary guy.
You want things to change, then more than 15% of the people need to vote in primaries, and I will die on that hill.
And you're not going to get them with fear.
Thank you again, Theory, for hanging out with me. Thank you, everyone, who made it all the way to the end. Make sure you subscribe here. Make sure you follow Substack. Join the Discord. Links are all over the place. Follow on TikTok. We got to talk to people. If we really want to make changes, we need to have all of these discussions, which means we all need to be together. We all need to be willing to learn, have hard discussions, grow, be wrong, and learn from it. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of A More Perfect Podcast. Bye.